Best ever listeners, welcome to the best real estate investing advice ever show. I'm Theo Hicks, and well, today is Friday, so we'll be doing Follow Along Friday. And as you can tell, I'm not Joe. I will be the main host today, and the co-host today is going to be Chris Salerno. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, Theo. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm glad to have you on here. Before we dive into the lessons that we learned, because as you guys know, each guys and girls know, each Follow Along Friday, me and Joe will go over some of the lessons we learned from the interviews that we did to give you a little sneak peek, just because these interviews probably aren't going to be coming out until early 2020. But before we get those lessons, Chris, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself, give a little bit about your background and maybe what you're focused on right now?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Theo, again. My name is Chris Salerno. I live here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been here a little over 13 years. I am the founder and president of QC Capital, which we specialize in acquiring large multifamily assets, primarily B type of assets, over 100 units with passive investors. We focus extremely heavily on the Carolina market. So that's a little sum of what we do.
Perfect. And Chris has been a guest on the podcast at least once before.
Yes.
So if you just go to joefairless.com and type in Chris Salerno in the search function, you should get his interviews to listen to those. I actually interviewed you one time, so I think Joe might have interviewed you the other time.
Yeah, so I'm excited to be on it again in the future.
Absolutely. All right, so we're going to go over some lessons I learned from the interviews last week. Again, these are not the only lessons I learned, and these are not the only interviews that I learned lessons from. These are just two lessons I wanted to talk about, and both of these are going to be relevant to Chris, so even better. So the first interview was with Adam Weiner, who is the managing director at a company called Rhino. And this was interesting. I had never heard of this before. I was talking to Chris about this beforehand, and he actually just recently heard about this. So basically what Rhino does, what Adam's company does is they replace the typical security deposit. So the typical, maybe half the first month's rent or the full first month's rent or some flat fee that a renter pays up front in addition to the first month's rent in order to secure a unit to cover, potential issues once they move out. So they replace this one-time lump sum fee with an insurance policy. So the way that he explained it to me is that rather than, let's say I'm renting from Chris, rather than me paying Chris $500 for a security deposit, plus maybe paying $500 more for first month's rent, and then $500 more for last month's rent, depending on how Chris's lease is set up, I'll pay my $500 a month, and then I'll pay something like $5 extra per month, and that covers my security deposit. And just like any other insurance policy, it works just like any other insurance policy. So at the end of my lease, Chris will go in there and take pictures to see if there's any damages, and then he can upload these pictures, upload the leases to this Rhino platform, and then they will handle the entire insurance process. So if you need to get money to cover any of these things, rather than come to me, the tenants, Chris will go to this company, and based off of the insurance policy, that will cover those issues. Not exactly sure what happens if the costs are kind of extremely high because I made mistakes. Like why wouldn't the tenant pay more than $5 a month? But I thought that was interesting. So if you want to learn more about that, visit sayrhino.com, just rhino like the animal. So I was planning to mention that, but this is a newer company. So he mentioned that when they started, they had less than 7 people working there, and they had this insurance policy on less than 100,000 units, which is still a ton of units. But now they've got 40 people, so almost 6 times more people than what they had in the beginning, and they've got over 300,000 units.
Wow!
And so I asked him, how did what does he, not necessarily what does he attribute to scaling, but if I want to scale a business with employees, what should I do? Or if I'm a real estate investor or a syndicator, for example, and I want to hire employees and kind of scale my business to go from maybe 1 deal to 20 deals, what are some things that I need to do? And it was actually very simple advice, nothing too crazy, but it was about hiring people. and he said that basically what you want to do is you want to figure out what your mission statement is for your company, what the kind of the overall goal is for the company, and then make sure that right from the beginning. So you figure this out right from the beginning before you hire anyone, and then their first person you hire needs to be someone who is smart, intelligent, driven, hungry, and they are on board with this mission. And then once you hire that first person, when you are interviewing additional people, they'll see you and they'll see the people that the person that's working for you already and how they are smart, intelligent, driven, and hungry. And it'll kind of be a snowball effect. Well, they'll attract good people as well, and then they'll attract even more good people. And so so basically what he said is that first hire is so important, because if you hire the wrong person, you're going to attract more wrong people. If you hire the right person, you're going to attract more right people. And then one last thing before you chime in, Chris, I wanted to mention. And then he said that when you're actually hiring these people to determine if they're smart, intelligent, driven, hungry, you don't want to go in there with a list of generic interview questions like, oh, what was your last job? How long did you work there? You want to just have a conversation with them. You want to try to have a real conversation with them to see if you can find a connection with that person. And you can't do that with generic questions. That's all I had to say about that, Chris. What are your thoughts?
I think, he couldn't say that any better. I think he is spot on when it comes to hiring your first 1 to 5 employees, because that is the face of your company when you're growing your company, is those first couple employees. And if you really mold them into your mission statement for your company and your future that you see where your company is going to head, and if they align with that and with you, they will attract a lot of people that are just like them, to grow your company. So, I think he couldn't even say, that was amazing. That was great.
Yeah. Because I've never hired anyone before, but I would imagine that, you're in your real estate business, things are going smoothly. And then maybe over time you decide, okay, I'm going to hire someone, but maybe you're kind of forced to hire someone. You really quickly do it. Or maybe you go to a conference and you meet someone and they've convince you to hire them, or maybe you're looking for an opening and you find the first person that you can find because you want to fill it quickly, and that's not the best approach. The best approach is to be patient with hiring that first person, because again, it's the snowball effect. And then again,
very much so. Yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
Hiring that first person, I think, be extremely patient and just let it happen. Don't try to force it. It's like a relationship. If you try to force it, it may not work out. So, just let it happen and gradually come together for that partnership.
And another tip that wasn't necessarily talked about in this interview, but something that I've come to realize from working with Joe, from doing a ton of interviews, is that you don't really even need to rush into hiring someone full time. You can either have them work for you part time at first, for a few months, up to 6 months, maybe even a year, to see how they do. Or depending on what business you're in. If you're a syndicator, there's so many hungry people who want to be in syndication that you could very easily find someone that will work for you, maybe 5 hours a week for free, and you can use that to test the waters to see if they're worth bringing on full time. If they're not, well, then you can end the relationship there, or find a different fit for them. If they are, then obviously you'll realize that they are if they've worked for you for that test period. So it's good if it's possible to kind of hire people on a test basis first, and then kind of increase that to a full time or increase that to a part-time position.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, like you said earlier, you should not rush into things. Make it nice and gradual, nice and slow. And to touch on the point, there is a lot of people out there who love underwriting, who loves to do acquisitions, that they'll work to just gain that knowledge up front.
So that was the interview that I did with, I don't know why my thing's not loading right now, Adam Weiner. So that will be coming out again in January, February timeframe. The second interview I wanted to talk about was with Christopher Stafford. He's a listing agent for the past 25 years in San Francisco Bay Area, and he's also a coach for agents. He was actually on the podcast before, 1435. We talked about how to pick markets to remotely invest in. And since he was a returning guest, we did a situation Saturday about overcoming the fear of investing in real estate nationally and internationally. So Christopher lives in San Francisco, and as an agent, he was selling deals, no problem. But then he wanted to invest in deals, single family deals. And he realized that, well, if you want to buy a single family deal as a rental in San Francisco, you're going to have to pay a lot of money for that. And rather than, so he was desperate to find properties, and rather than kind of give up and just keep selling, he well, I'll explain how, but he decided to invest in what he calls second tier cities. So these are cities that are not sexy, but are still really good markets. He said they have strong employment numbers, company headquarters, amazing local economies, and then you'll get greater returns buying less expensive properties with long-term appreciation. So an example he gave was Oklahoma City would be a second tier market. And for him, he uses a kind of like a turnkey company called ICG, who finds the cities to invest in, finds the best type of property to invest in that second tier city, and then actually assembles a team in that city to help you find the deal, help you manage the deal. So if you want to go that route, you can, but you don't have to, because in this episode, he talked about how to build your team, how to build your entire team if you're investing out of state. So the first thing you want to do is find a property management company. So you can find them through referral. So unless you're kind of completely new to the business, you should know someone in real estate that can give you a referral. If you don't, bigger pockets, podcasts like this, you'll be able to find a property management company and then interview them. We didn't go into interview questions, but we do have a blog post, The Ultimate Guide to Selecting a Property Management Company, on our website. So go to Fairless.com, search interviewing property management company, and that will come up. So you find a property management company. They're the ones who are going to give you a ton of information on the market. They're going to give you information on the types of properties to invest in and the neighborhoods within that larger market to invest in. Once you find the property management company, you want to find a realtor, a real estate agent to help you find these deals. If you're investing in commercial properties, then a broker. You want to get this person from your property management company. So you've already qualified your management company, and then since you already qualified them, that you trust them, if they give you a referral, that holds a little bit more weight than you just finding them out of the blue yourself. So get that referral from the property management company for a realtor or for the commercial broker, and they're the one that's going to have their finger on the pulse of what's going on, kind of on the day-to-day, week-to-week basis in the market, and they're the ones that are going to help you find deals. So management company helps you know the market, know what to invest in, and actually manages the deals. The realtor is going to, or the commercial broker is going to find you the properties, and that's really what you need to start your business. If you're investing out of state, you need a property management company and a realtor to be your boots on the ground. And then from there, the contractors, the lenders, you can find them through the realtor or the property management company. So when you're interviewing that property management company initially, a few things that Chris said you should look out for is how long they've been in the business, what type of information are they providing you with. So when you're talking to them, like how much do they know about the market, how much do they know about the properties based off of how they're communicating that to you. Good communication skills, and then ultimately your gut feeling for them. Meet them in person. So maybe you have to fly out to this actual market, drive out to the market, meet them in person, and kind of ask yourself, what is your initial feeling with this person, and then once you've left, how do you feel about this individual or these individuals? Did you get a good sense of them as a person? Are they trustworthy? And is this someone that you can see yourself working with? Because since you're investing out of state, you're not going to see them all the time. You're not going to see the properties all the time, if ever, again. And so you have to put a lot of trust in your team if you're investing out of state. So again, just to quickly summarize, find a management company first. Through them, find a realtor, and then through both of them, find the rest of your team.
Yeah, definitely. I think you couldn't have said it any better. I think it's extremely important to build those relationships with the property management company and with the broker, because the broker is going to feed you deals no matter if they're on market or off market. The property management company is going to be that day-to-day aspect of your whole business model of that property. So I think it's very important to build those relationships, just like you said, with them when you are thinking investing out of state. You will eventually have to fly out there, meet them face to face, get an even better feeling for them, and also get a better feeling for the property and the surrounding areas for your investor. But yeah, you couldn't said it even better.
Perfect. All right, so those are the 2 lessons. Again, those episodes will be coming out in early 2020, but we wanted to give you kind of a sneak peek of the biggest lessons from those episodes, so you can start applying those to your business now and not having to wait until 2020. All right, to wrap things up, the trivia question. So this month we're doing kind of like a loyalty theme. So these are questions that you would really only know the answers to if you've read the blogs, if you're a loyal best ever listener, if you've read our books. Maybe this week's question you might be able to dig at this answer if you're just like an amazing apartment syndicator who's done a bunch of deals but again, we talked about this. The question this week we talked about before on the podcast and the blog. But first, let's quickly go over to last week's question. So last week's question was, what are Joe's 3 immutable laws of real estate investing? So in order to win, you had to get all 3 of those correct. Number 1 was buy for cash flow, not appreciation. Yeah. Number 2 was secure long-term debt. Number 3 was to have adequate cash reserves. So for more details on those 3 laws, if you Google 3 immutable laws of real estate investing, it's one of the first results on Google. Again, first person that got that correct will receive a free copy of our first book. This week's question is, if you need to raise $1 million for your apartment syndication deal, what is the maximum amount of money a single investor can invest without having to go through the extra due diligence by the lender? So typically this is expressed as a percentage, but we just gave an example. So you take that percentage, multiply it by $1 million, and that would be the maximum amount of money a single investor can invest without having to go through the extra due diligence by the lender. So again, first person that gets that correct will get a free copy of our first book, and we'll give you the answer to that one next week. Chris, I appreciate you stopping by. If the best ever listeners want to get in touch with you, learn more about what you got going on, where can they reach you?
Yeah, very much so. You can reach me at chris@qccapitalgroup.com or follow me on social media, just Chris Salerno. I extremely heavily on Instagram at Chris_Salerno_, and we do have a networking page at Mindful Multifamily Network. So that's where you can find me.
Perfect. And you also mentioned beforehand that you're going to Jake and Gino's event next week. So
I will be, yes. So I will be at Jake and Gino's event down in Orlando. I know I have a ton of lunches and coffees that are already being lined up. So reach out to me. Definitely would love to connect in person. I'm a big networker when it comes to these conferences. So definitely would love to have you on my schedule.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Chris. Best of our listeners. Thanks for stopping by. Have a best ever day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.